Okay, so you're anxious or avoidant. Why? Because if you're anxious or avoidant, nothing's wrong with you. I want to get this across to every one of you. At one time, your brain took the best deal available.
Did you push record?
Thank you so much for tuning back into Second Act TV. I want to welcome Dr. Gary Salyer back to Second Act. Gary, thanks so much for staying over.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here.
Well, Gary is the author of Safe to Love Again, and we just finished a segment where we discussed the whole idea of so many of us, especially after 50, have lost hope of ever finding love again. So we will link to that segment. We'll link to his book. Gary, at the end of our segment, you said something that I really want people to understand, and that the whole premise of our success of finding love or keeping love, as a couple, restoring love, is all based on the way we attach. Most of us have heard of attachment theory. You've taken that to a different level to help us not only figure out how we attach, but what do we do about it? Talk to me about that.
Okay, so attachment theory is the simple question. Is it's just the science of how our brain got wired to love and be loved right back. It's the science of how we set up our patterns, right? And our preferences and all those other good things. And attachment theory, it's about 75 years old, but we know that generally there's a fourth style that gets more into mental illness. But for most people with what I call, common middle-class craziness, we're either anxious, secure, or avoidant. Mm-hmm. We know that style of relating gets set up by 1 to 1.5. And we know that because if you separate a young child from their mother or their father, based on how they reacted to the separation and the reunion, you can spot a pattern that will last unless there's some sort of intervention. The secure baby, they have a pretty good feeling that they're loved. And when mom, they don't like when mom goes away or dad goes away, but they know they're coming back. They're comfortable depending and being dependent on in a relationship. They generally pick lasting marriages, about 85% of the time.
Really interesting.
Now, on the other hand, what if a baby were given attention, not attention, support and not support, and some part says, I'm going to fight to lock this thing down. It's not going to get away from me this time. And they become the anxious. When does love go away? Why didn't you text me last night? Do you still love me? And their worst fear is, when does love go away? And they get overly protective about it, they drive people away.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and you said, if I remember correctly, that 50% of people are secure, where the other 50% are split between avoidant and
anxious. There's about 50% are secure, and about 25% are anxious, and 20% are avoidant, and another 5% split the difference. Now, the other one are the avoidant. The avoidant baby they look precociously mature. You go, oh, look at that mature little baby playing by themselves. That's because they didn't get a lot of bids that got met for attention, and they said, I got to do it on my own. I got to be the Marlboro mate. So they are not comfortable depending or being depended on. Their worst nightmare is commitment. Although they'll get married, they tend to be emotionally dismissive, where anxious are preoccupied with their pain. So if you get these two, what happens is the anxious and the avoidant tend to attract each other for a lot of different reasons, and it becomes what I call the law of attraction from hell. Now, so you got these labels. Now, the question that I asked in the book is, okay, how do you get back to secure if you were one of these others? Because, if you're like me, I was born in a family that I wasn't welcomed with joy very much, and I did not have a secure attachment, and I wanted to know how to get back, and I'm not the only one. A few years ago, I was at a party over 4th of July, and there were at least 20 people as part of a growth community, a little growth community over in Marin. And 20 people had read the book Attached, which is a great book by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, classic. And it's the first one that really made attachment theory accessible and understandable. And it's really the book that created why we're all interested. But it doesn't give a clear roadmap for how to become secure again, other than telling the anxious, marry someone secure.
Just put a label on it. Now you have
it puts a label on you. And what I kept getting, and the one guy said it best, he says, now that I know that I'm avoidant, he says, I stopped reading the book because I felt so hopeless. It's like I've got this sign over my head that says screwed. and that's not cool. That's not cool. To give you a label without a means back. I mean, a label and $5 might get you something at Starbucks, right? So I said, so what would restore? What I found out when I did the research and I work with clients is that the only thing that can tell a baby it was securely loved and be secure at a year can't be story, can't be identity, because that part of the brain isn't online. It can't be limiting beliefs, which everybody talks about. The only thing up and running are feelings. And when I said, okay, if an attachment can only be based on feelings, what feelings? And the more I worked with people and the more I did the research, 4 key feelings that come online between 0 and 3. Were you welcomed with joy? Oh my God, there's a little Silka. Ooh, so glad you're here. Right? And that translates as adults to when you get up in the morning and somebody says, good morning, handsome. Good morning, gorgeous. That's welcome with joy. And we all want to hear that. Right? And it's an echo of that early feeling saying, this is love, right? Then there's worthy and nourished. It's okay to reach out for your needs. Mom gives you a binky, your beloved brings flowers or knows that you need a massage that night because it was a hard day. Worthy. Then cherished and protected. You get to be a me and a we. Like a toddler goes out but still wants to know mom and dad's in the room looking over them. They want both. And we want both. We want to be able to explore our greatest potential and come back to the support. And the home port is somebody's heart. That's cherished. That's protected. They see our essence and they value it. That which is uniquely us. That's what cherished feels. And they're, of course, empowered. Nobody wants all that without empowerment. They want to be able to have a voice, have some choice, shared influence, a partnership that feels like a we. And if you put welcome to worthy and cherish and empowered together with a great we, and that's the other thing I talk about. There has to be a we in this relation, not just 2 me's. You put that together with a few little things from compatibility list, you feel pretty good. And you can have as long a compatibility list as you want. And if those feelings are missing and there's no we, it will never feel right because our brain is looking for 4 feelings on a continual basis. And if you're a couple, you got to ask, are you giving and receiving them?
No, it's very, very interesting. I think what you're saying is that in order, and correct me if I'm wrong, in order to fix and restore, you do have to first, though, dig for that label. Like, is that me, right? I mean, don't you in your book, you have a quiz that or you identify with certain statements that show whether or not you're one or the other, because before you can fix anything you need to know that. No?
Yes, I do that because if you write a book on attachment, it's kind of obligatory. Right? But the big thing is, okay, so you're anxious or avoidant. Why? And what feeling is your brain reacting to? Because if you're anxious or avoidant, nothing's wrong with you. I want to get this across to every one of you. At one time, your brain took the best deal available. The best deal available. I mean, in my family, I had a borderline mother who refused to name me for 3 weeks, right? And I used to be up and play with my toys by myself in a room at 3 or 4 and 5. Why is that? Because if you were down in the kitchen where the we was, you could get bounced off against a wall. So the part of me that chose distance as safe took the best deal available. Closeness did not mean a good deal. Now, when I took that into my first marriage, not so good. Not so good. But at one time, it was the best deal available. So anxious and avoidant, we want to thank that part of your brain because it kept you on the planet. Now, what feeling is missing? That's the key. Was it you didn't feel worthy? You didn't feel welcomed? Because someone who didn't feel worthy, maybe their mom and dad were never there, they were latchkey. That's a different feeling than for me. I wasn't so cherished or welcomed, right? So if it's about finding out what missing feeling you were given and then allowing your brain to feel safe with that feeling again. And if you can truly feel welcomed and worthy, then you stop choosing people that aren't good at welcome and don't know how to make you feel worthy. Your brain uses feelings to pick. It will use whatever reference feeling it was given. So if you were given unwelcomed or unworthy or not so cherished or disempowered, it will use those to pick and choose. That's why we get into Groundhog Day. That's why we say our pickers are messed up. We use feelings as reference feelings to choose partners, to feel, and the key that I have argued is it's feelings. And so if you're a man out there, I'm sorry to tell you, women were right. It is about feelings. And if you choose those feelings and you can restore them really deep down inside, it usually takes a little help to do this, then your brain will automatically start choosing and creating life that's secure. It's a simple equation. It takes a little work, but that's the new part in the book.
Well, very, very, very interesting. And a few things you've said, I get a little aha moment, and I'm hoping that our viewers, feel the same. This is an exercise, really an awakening, that if you've gone a certain route all of your life, as you said, if, Groundhog Day and this repetitive behavior comes up, this is certainly, really, really worth looking at. I will, of course, link to your book, to all of your information, if people want to get in touch with you directly, Gary, on this. Anything else that you want to add on this segment? What do we need to know about attachment theory and getting past it?
The big thing, again, is there's nothing wrong with your brain. Nothing. You were born whole. And all of these feelings and all these rights I talk about that come from these feelings, you don't have to work to deserve. You were born worthy of having your needs met. You were born with a right to exist, which means to feel welcome with joy. You were wired for connection. You were born worthy of being cherished in a we and being empowered. So these are your birthrights. Reclaim them. And just know that nothing's wrong with your brain. If any of them are missing, it's like the brain took them away because it wasn't safe and put them in a little layaway plan. And then they're there for the recovery later on, like they're being protected by. That's why they were taken away, your brain. So, in a sense, nothing has ever been lost. We're just restoring what is naturally there. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gary, and we will see you on our next segment on Second Act TV. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right over here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too. We'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.